Zeldork01. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about the film Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, my personal favorite film in the series. Despite having a Goblet of Fire poster on my wall, Prisoner of Azkaban is my absolute favorite. When the film was first released in 2004, there was a shift in tone for the series. Alfonso Cuaron replaced Chris Columbus as the director, and his vision for the film was even more intriguing and mysterious than before. He does a really good job at expanding the universe and adding depth to the characters. A fun fact, Alfonso Cuaron got Daniel Radcliffe, Emma Watson, and Rupert Grint to write essays as their own character. Daniel, Harry, he wrote a 1-page essay, Emma Watson wrote a 16-page paper, and Rupert Grint did not write one at all, which reflects their characters, obviously. This approach that Cuaron took in deepening the characters, he kind of takes the same approach in the rest of the film. This video essay analyzes the recurring themes of time, deception, and identity. I really wanted to take a closer look at the mise-en-scène in the film and think about how the editing and the composition and design and lighting plays a role in achieving the style that Cuaron was going for. In this film, Alfonso Cuaron expresses the weight, strength, and passage of time in his reimagined version of the wizarding world. To sum up the film really quick, this film follows Harry Potter at his third year at Hogwarts, of course, and he finds out that there is a madman escaped prisoner on the loose in hopes of killing Harry Potter. However, as the story progresses, we learn that there is more than meets the eye. The escaped prisoner is actually Harry's godfather, and the villain all along was Ron Weasley's rat. Quite the plot twist. Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban is a magical realism film. It follows kids going to school, taking classes, playing sports. The only thing that makes this film not realistic is the presence of magic, obviously. This introduces one of the sub-themes I wanted to talk about, deception. The motif and phrase in the film, "I solemnly swear I'm up to no good," with the Marauder's map, really sums this up quite well. The kids are always getting into trouble for the sake of saving innocent lives and the world. The main theme I want to talk about today is time. The emphasis of time in Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban is pretty hard to miss. It's connected to everything. Time is so important for multiple reasons. Harry and Hermione manipulate it to travel back to the past and save the future. Sirius lost valuable time of his life in Azkaban. Harry lost valuable time with his parents. And Harry finds his strength and identity through the past, or through time. Multiple motifs of time appear throughout the film, such as the Whomping Willow, the Time Turner, and different motifs of clocks and clock gears. The first scene that I want to analyze is the introduction of the Dementors. Dementors are introduced early on in the film, portrayed as terrifying, unknown, slow-moving creatures, communicated through their design and movement. Creating the Dementors and the effect they had on the environment was a time-consuming process. When the Dementors make their first appearance on the Hogwarts Express, the VFX team used a lot of different weather elements to create a believable mood. They put CG rain in the far distance, condensation on the windows, and practical rain outside of the train to really give an overall deep and realistic look that the Dementors are creating as they enter. Cuaron said he wanted the Dementors to move slowly like royalty because they know they're going to get you. They can take their time. The filmmakers started by testing cloth puppets underwater. When Cuaron expressed how much he loved the look of the slowed down underwater cloth movement, they decided to replicate that effect by literally slowing down the clips of the movement of the cloth. Literally slowing down the clip speed of the Dementors moving is symbolic of their connection to the theme of time. As Cuaron mentioned, they move like royalty. They think that they have all the time in the world, so they really drag on their terrorizing to their victims because they know that they're going to win. Over the course of the film, the Whomping Willow appears on 4 different occasions to signify the passage of time. The first time is right before the beginning of the first class, of course symbolizing a new year beginning. The tree is pictured as green and lush. And then the next time that the Whomping Willow shows up is juxtaposed right after Sirius was spotted in Hogwarts. Dumbledore gathered the students into the Great Hall, and while they're asleep, he speaks with Snape and sounding frightened and even suggesting the students might be sent home because Hogwarts is no longer safe. To communicate the passage of time and describe how it's now peak autumn, a single leaf delicately falls off the Whomping Willow and then abruptly the rest of the leaves follow. The personified Whomping Willow shivers, a reflection of how we're all feeling after hearing Dumbledore's chilling words. Now, while the Whomping Willow isn't the indicator of the beginning of winter, something else just as beautiful is. There's a lovely transition where Hedwig is flying through an autumn landscape until flurries start to fall around him, and suddenly he flies into a winter wonderland. The camera flies towards the clock tower until we notice Harry is standing inside of it, with low-key lighting inside the tower making him appear dark and mysterious. The white snow in the corners of the screen creates a quiet feeling through an interesting reverse vignette effect. The hands of the clock move over Harry's face, symbolic of the fact he's reflecting on the passage of time. This specific clip has Harry blocked in an interesting spot. He stands solemnly still, alone in a tower, high above the rest of his peers, symbolizing the distance and isolation he feels with them. The high ground that he has right now is representative of the fame that he didn't ask for, unintentionally putting him far above his classmates as the chosen one. We see a third shot of the Whomping Willow in a snowy setting, but there is grass showing through the ground along with a butterfly. The tree shakes the snow off its branches, and winter is coming to the end. As nature regains its strength and energy, Harry is too, because right after this clip is shown, Harry is learning how to conjure the Patronus charm. My all-time favorite scene in the film is the Time Turner scene, when Harry and Hermione actually go to travel back in time to save Sirius and Buckbeak and Harry himself. The effort that was put into making time travel believable in this scene is astonishing, and it definitely wasn't in vain. Harry wakes up in the Drab and Dole infirmary, immediately giving viewers an uneasy feeling. It appears to be well into the night. Hermione's placement is physically over Harry, expressing her power and importance in the scene. She's the one with the Time Turner. When Dumbledore comes into the room, his entrance is grand, of course. However, when he joins into the conversation to suggest they engage in time travel, he isn't the one in the center of the frame. Hermione is, further symbolizing her importance. This leaves an interesting amount of eye room to the right of the frame, where Ron sits with his injury. The filmmakers use character blocking to indicate the tone. As I displayed in this hand-drawn graphic, Dumbledore moves closer to Ron physically when the tone is more lighthearted and playful, but he moves back to Hermione and Harry when he gets more serious. The choices in the character blocking in this scene not only forms interesting compositions, but it also indicates the tone and character dynamic in the scene. The filmmakers express Dumbledore's mysterious nature one more time as he exits the room, giving Harry and Hermione one last hint. He's shown with his head between the two doors, creating a dark vignette effect with the low-key lighting on his face, really adding to his mystery and the ominous words that he's saying. Now, when Harry and Hermione actually use the Time Turner, it's so visually interesting. The light changing outside isn't the only indication of the time of day changing, but the setting around them is literally warping and moving backward. In order to achieve this, they filmed two different takes. The first take captures Harry and Hermione using the device in normal speed, and then in a separate take, they film the background with dozens of people entering and exiting the infirmary. Then they reversed that second take and sped it up. Cuaron said his goal was to capture the spirit of time literally moving and circling around you. It's such a cool scene. And then the motifs of the clock gears are shown once again to further communicate that they just traveled back in time. And this is a totally new concept for the Harry Potter universe. The climax of the film takes place when Harry and Hermione are back in time and Harry is about to watch himself and Sirius get attacked by Dementors. Harry is under the impression that he's about to watch his dad save him because earlier he was deceived that the stag that he saw was a representation of his dad. All along it was actually Harry, future Harry, traveling back to save past Harry. Moments pass, and as things grow more and more tense, Hermione assures Harry that his dad isn't coming. In a moment of panic, Harry steps in and saves himself, conjuring his very own Patronus. Harry's Patronus manifests as a stag, which is incredibly significant because it symbolizes the connection between Harry and his father. Virginia Zimmerman wrote a captivating article called Harry Potter and the Gift of Time. She explains how Harry forms his identity and gains his strength from the memories of his past, and that's why time is so prominent in this series, especially the Prisoner of Azkaban film. In the article, Zimmerman explains, central to Harry's heroism is his ability to live in time and even to manipulate and take advantage of its passage, surrounding himself with personal history and forging his identity from the traces of his family. And he uses the information in the past as his advantage. In contrast, Voldemort separates himself from this past. He shows no interest in his family, instead he isolates himself, such as when he divides up his soul for the sake of immortality. Voldemort's selfishness proves to be detrimental to himself by the end of the series. Now, the fourth and final time that the Whomping Willow appears is right at the end of the film, showing the end of the school year. Their leaves are once again lush and even greener than before, indicating the end of the film, yet the beginning of another chapter. During their third year at Hogwarts, Harry, Ron, and Hermione are no longer exclusively seen in uniforms. Their style becomes much more laid back. Cuaron wanted the students to dress more casually to further connect to young viewers at the time. Costume designer Janie Tamim described her vision as wanting the children to look like real next-door kids. They're seen in hoodies and baggy jeans, and this creates relatability for the younger viewers. The costume design for the main characters further solidifies the idea that this is a magical realism film. They're seen in such typical normal kid clothes, but obviously the events that they're experiencing are not typical at all. Continuing the analysis of costume design, I wanted to talk about Sirius Black. When he's first introduced in the film through a wanted ad, his look is totally deceitful. His disheveled hair and tattered clothes are not doing him any favors. He looks insane. This is a great example of how a formal element, costume design, communicates a theme, deception. When Sirius is shown again at the end of the film, he looks just as crazy as he did earlier, but our perception of him has changed. The costume design is dominated by cool tones, and this is further expressed in the setting and environment of the film. The reason that the Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban film stands out to me in the series is because it acts as the crucial turning point that introduces a darker and more mature world. The three main characters grow up, and as they do so, they continue to seek out more information on how to defeat evil. The color palette is the clearest indicator in this change of tone. It looks as if the only color in the film is blue, creating a cold environment, perfect for darkness, dementors, secrets, and revealing the truth. While the film isn't the first-person point of view of Harry, I see the way that the film portrays the outside world a projection of Harry's perception of the world. As time passes, Harry becomes more reflective as he grows older. He realizes that time is passing and he's overwhelmed by the weight he carries, and he learns that the past shapes him. In the article I mentioned earlier, Zimmerman explains the significance of Harry's constant reminders that he looks like his relatives. Most of his identity is based on his past. In one of their first conversations, Lupin tells Harry that he recognized Harry immediately because of his eyes. They are his mother Lily's. He tells Harry that he's more like his parents than he knows, further expressing how Harry's past shapes him despite him knowing so little about it. And as he learns more about his tragic past, the world starts to become a darker place. By the end of the film, Harry isn't satisfied with himself. He tells Lupin that it was all for nothing because Peter Pettigrew escaped. Harry just seems to think little of himself. And this is really expressed in the whole look of the film. Everything is blue. Even Harry's clothes are blue, almost always, and if they're not blue, they're dark and muted. If we compare the color grading of The Prisoner of Azkaban to the two earlier films, The Prisoner of Azkaban almost entirely lacks the color orange. The Sorcerer's Stone poster is a vibrant orange complemented with a vivid blue to express the magic, warmth, and whimsical feeling of the first film. It looks as if every film still from this movie is dominated by the color orange. The huge jump in contrast from a fiery and warm orange to a cold, icy blue really deepens the overall significance of the film in relation to the rest of the series. By analyzing the formal elements of the film, such as the mise-en-scène and the editing techniques, I was able to further understand how the filmmakers expressed the themes they wanted to communicate. The filmmakers cleverly weaved in different motifs that expressed the passing of time, and as the story went on, they thoughtfully selected a color palette that further communicated that theme. Every little detail, from Harry's abundant amount of blue clothing to the personified Whomping Willow, all contribute to an expanded and reimagined version of the wizarding world. This film will always hold such a special place in my heart. I remember watching it for the first time when I was like 12 years old. I remember watching that scene where Harry's on Buckbeak and they're flying over the lake, and I just remember thinking it was such a beautiful scene, and it made me feel like super happy and warm on the inside, despite the colors being so cold. And I love talking about things like time travel and the butterfly effect and time in general. I was really intrigued by the amount of time that shows up in the series. And as I continue to read the Gift of Time article by Virginia Zimmerman, all these connections started popping up that I wouldn't have realized before, so I really appreciate that article. And that is all I have to say about this film. If anyone's watching this, thank you so much. This is my first attempt at a video essay, especially a film analysis. So thank you, and I hope you enjoyed, and yeah, that's it. Thank you.